Let's go over some algebra terminology, right? So mathematics is a language, and just like any other language, we cannot begin to understand anything unless we know, for example, the alphabet, how to spell, verbs, adjective, nouns, all that good stuff. Mathematics is exactly the same. If we don't know the terminology we are using, we cannot construct sentences and make sense of it. So let's go over some terminology that we use in algebra and what it means. All right, so the first one, variable, because we've been talking about variables so much, these are the things we are interested in. These are like our letters in your alphabet. It allows you to create mathematical sentences. Variables can be anything you want them to be. So the common variable letters that we use in mathematics is X, Y, A, B, T, etc. You call it any small letter if you wanted to, and you are interested in finding that variable of what it could be. Right, next one that we use a lot is called a constant. What is a constant? Well, constants are just real numbers that we can join to variables using some sort of algebraic operation, such as adding or multiplying. And we will talk about algebraic operations in the next section. All right, so what are some constants? 3 is a constant, 7 is a constant, the square root of 2 is a constant, pi is a constant. It's a very special constant. It's used in mathematics a lot, right? Think of your area of a circle. Pi shows up there, right? So those are just examples of constants. Let's go on to what is a term. So a term can be a constant or a variable, right? And terms are separated by some algebraic operations, plus and minus. Okay, so terms that are separated by a plus or minus are called expressions, and we'll talk about that again just now in the table. But essentially, what are examples of some terms? 3x by itself is a term, 27 over x is a term, 9x squared is a term. You can see it's usually joined together. It's like one term. All right, so that's why we speak term or multiple terms. All right. What are like terms? Well, like terms are terms that have the same structure. All right, so there's common variables. They must look almost identical. Well, they must look identical, right? And that same structure allows us to then add or subtract those like terms together. So what are some like terms? Well, 2x and 3x are like terms, but 2x and 3x squared are not like terms because you have that square over there, right? So that means it's a different structure. The one is just an x by itself, and the other one is an x squared, which is a different variable. Okay, so what is an expression? We talked about it a bit. An expression is just a combination of terms, separate terms, that are separated by the algebraic operations plus or minus. So for example, 2x plus 9x squared is a term. All right, it's a term. The plus sign there doesn't mean we can add them two together because they're not like terms. So it's not 11x squared, right? That doesn't mean you can do that. They are two unlike terms, but it's an expression because there are two terms separated by a plus or minus sign. Similarly for here, 14 minus 4 over x. Right, so 14 is one term, 4 over x is another term, and it's separated by a minus sign. Okay, so that's what an expression is. An equation? Well, an equation is just a statement with a variable or a constant that is true. Generally, when you're working with equations, you want to try and solve for one of the variables. All right, so let's look at an example. 3x squared minus x equals 1. That is an equation because there's an equal sign there. And you want to find the variable or variables x that satisfy that equation to be true. Another example of an equation that you can be definitely certain of, 2 plus 3 equals 5. That's an equation, right? It's a true statement. It has a left-hand side, 2 plus 3, and it has a right-hand side, 5. And the statement is true. Equality holds true here because 2 plus 3 is 5.